I love this time of year. Looking back on the games I played during the past year while simultaneously creating my wishlist for the new year. I played a lot of games in 2024. Not quite as many as I would have liked, but hey, I do have a life outside of playing video games. Anyway, you know the drill. To start off this video, I'll first be going over the games I played that released in 2024. After that, I'll talk about older games that I finished in 2024. There will, of course, be some awards sprinkled in here and there, and at the end, I'll talk about my personal game of the year. Let us begin. Going in release order, the first game I played this year was Persona 3 Reload. I actually played most of Persona 3 Fez back in the day, and I've dabbled with Portable, but I never got around to finishing it. I've been wanting a Persona 3 remake for years now. One of the first episodes of my now retired podcast, Luna's Galaxy, was all about how I wanted a definitive remake of Persona 3 that featured content from all the different versions. We didn't quite get that, unfortunately, but Reload does a close-ish job. The combat is reworked to allow us control of our party members and adds new features like 3rd-G abilities. I really loved the gameplay experience in Reload, and I was so relieved to not have to deal with Mitsuru using Marin Karin every turn. Tartarus is also more interesting to explore, however it does still pale in comparison to Persona 5's incredibly designed palace areas. Tartarus is kind of meant to feel like a repetitive slog, and the vibes are different though, so it's not the most fair comparison to make. My favorite addition to Persona 3 Reload, however, comes in the form of bonding events you can do with your party. In the evenings at the dorm, there are various activities you can do with the members of SEAS to get to know them better, and even help them gain new abilities for when you're in Tartarus. Even better, though, are the optional hangouts you can do with the male members of SEAS. One of my biggest complaints in Fez was that there weren't any social links for the guys in SEAS. I just wanted to get to know them better, but alas, Atlas did not give me the chance. While I still don't have social links in Reload, I think I actually prefer what they've done here with the hangouts. At certain points in the story, Junpei, Akihiko, Amada, and Shinji can email you asking you to spend time with them. Unlike social links, the events here relate directly to where the plot is at the moment. There are optional moments with Shinji especially that I felt added a lot to his character and improved what was presented in the original. That about covers the changes made in Reload, but as always, the core plot of Persona 3 is incredible. I haven't played the Episode Aigis DLC, but the base game is incredible and is in my opinion the best plot of the big 3 Persona games. I found myself connecting with the characters in Reload in a way that I didn't when I played Fez all those years ago. The themes of the game also resonated deeper with me, having dealt with death quite a bit in recent memory. If you're one of the many people who got into the Persona series with Persona 5, you owe it to yourself to play Persona 3 Reload. The story, characters, gameplay, music, and presentation will blow you away. And if you've played other versions of Persona 3 like myself, there's enough new content worth the playthrough. Persona 3 Reload marks what will be a bit of a trend for my gaming this year: amazing remakes. Persona 3 Reload wins the award for Best Thematic Cohesion. Speaking of amazing remakes, the next game I played in 2024 was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fan, and Final Fantasy VII Remake was my game of the year in 2020. So I was eagerly anticipating Rebirth ever since it was announced, and this game did not disappoint. Rebirth takes what made Remake so great and improves it. Gameplay is so much fun, and the added synergy attacks add so much to the gameplay. There's also the addition of Yuffie and Red 13 as controllable party members in battle. Yuffie was typically my favorite character to play as, using her elemental ninjutsu. There's also the exploration and side content in Rebirth, which I believe is where the game truly shines. Although some folks have expressed that they don't like the minigames and Ubisoft-esque world map, I absolutely adored it. I had so much fun exploring the open world, and it never felt boring or like I was just searching for checkmarks. I also love the majority of the minigames, and even the ones that I didn't enjoy as much never overstayed their welcome. Most minigames are one-offs that are easy to complete for the main scenario. I enjoyed how they break up the usual gameplay segments to offer something new. And of course, Queen's Blood was so much fun to play and even had its own unique storyline. Rebirth is just such a joyous game to play as someone that loves Final Fantasy VII. Rebirth has solidified Final Fantasy VII as having my favorite ensemble cast of characters in any video game series. The dynamics between the party members are so strong, and the story creates a perfect balance of heart-wrenching moments, character development, and goofy fan service that gives this game so much heart. There were so many times while playing that I had a huge smile plastered across my face, and was just in awe of how incredible this game is. My only complaint was that the ending didn't meet my expectations. Without spoilers, I just felt like the presentation of key moments didn't work for me in this remake. With that being said, however, I'm so excited for Part 3, and I think Rebirth has proved that the Final Fantasy VII Remake development team knows what they are doing, and I am so grateful that these games exist. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth wins the awards for best characters, and best battle system. As I am writing this, I am realizing that I skipped over a game that I forgot came out this year, and I can't be bothered to reformat the script to put it first, so let's talk about Silent Hill: The Short Message. As the name states, this is a short game, taking around 2 hours to complete. The Short Message was randomly announced and dropped that same night on the PlayStation Store during a PlayStation State of Play in January. I really enjoyed my time with The Short Message. I liked seeing a fresh take on Silent Hill that attempted to deal with modern issues like the youth mental health crisis and social media. While far from a perfect game, I enjoyed my time with it. I also love the cherry blossom monster design that we see here by Masahiro Ito. Continuing with the horror theme, we have Crow Country. I adored this game, and if you want to know my really in-depth thoughts on it, I actually made an entire video about it that I'll link here if you're interested. Crow Country is an old-school style survival horror game where you play as a young girl named Mara, as she investigates the abandoned Crow Country amusement park. I really love the aesthetics and vibe of Crow Country, feeling like a blend of the original Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil. I loved exploring Crow Country, and the puzzles were great. Crow Country also has various settings that cater to different styles of play, so even if survival horror isn't quite your thing but you're still intrigued by the mystery and vibes of Crow Country, you can easily enjoy it without having to deal with the monsters. Or you can make the game a lot more difficult if that better suits your style. Either way, Crow Country is a great game. Crow Country wins the awards for Best Art Style and Best Music. Following Crow Country, I discovered a game called Nightmare Kart. It's a free kart racer on Steam that's reminiscent of both the PS1 era and Bloodborne. I had a fun time with this, and for free, you really can't go wrong with trying it out. There is multiplayer available, but I only played the single-player campaign. Nightmare Kart is a unique game worth checking out. Next up, we have Astrobot. Astrobot is actually the game that I most recently completed on this list, and man, it is incredible. When I got a PS5 back in 2022, the first game I played was the pack-in title Astro's Playroom, and I was amazed at the high-quality fun that was on display. I loved how it felt like a love letter to PlayStation as a whole, and more than anything, I wanted more. Well, Astrobot delivers. After the PS2 era, AAA 3D platformers were a lot harder to come by, with Nintendo basically being the sole publisher pushing the genre forward with Mario. Now though, I think Mario may have some competition. Astrobot is the best 3D platformer that I have had the pleasure of playing. I had so much fun exploring the levels to try and find all the different bots, puzzle pieces, and secret levels. I loved all the different power-ups for Astrobot, and I never felt like any of them overstayed their welcome. The difficulty was perfect for me. Although I understand some people may find it a bit too easy, I have never been one for struggling, and there are some challenge levels that will help scratch that itch. The music, visuals, cameos, everything about this game just brought me so much happiness and fun. Even how the game utilizes the DualSense controller in unique ways is so charming. I would genuinely recommend Astrobot to everyone that owns a PS5 because it is just that good. And it feels like the kind of game that can be universally loved regardless of what you usually play. Astrobot is a must-play game for 2024. Astrobot wins the awards for Best Presentation, Best Direction, and Best Fan Service. You know, when Silent Hill 2 Remake was first announced and we found out that Bloober Team would be developing it, most people, including myself, narrowed their expectations for what would be one of the first projects released following the Silent Hill revival. It wasn't until one of the final trailers released that fans actually started to think, maybe this could actually be good. And man, was it good. I played Silent Hill 2 for the first time last year, and I adored it. I loved the music and atmosphere especially. Silent Hill 2 deals with extremely heavy topics and was ahead of its time in many ways. One of the major concerns held by fans was how the remake would deal with characters like Angela, Eddie, or even the main character James Sunderland. And to everyone's surprise, it was incredibly well done. The narrative of Silent Hill 2 remains unchanged, save for a few small additional cutscenes and a couple new endings. The voice acting is incredible, and seeing Silent Hill 2 at its full potential is really something. The gameplay has been overhauled to be more action-focused, another thing that people complained about pre-release. People were freaking out over a dodge button for some reason. Anyway, these changes make the core gameplay experience much more enjoyable and add another layer of tension to the game with its added difficulty. The original Silent Hill 2 was basically known for having bad gameplay, so these changes were very welcome. The game is also roughly twice as long as the original, which sounds horrific, but there were actually only a few times where it felt like areas were being drawn out or the pacing dipped. One instance I felt it most was definitely the hospital area, which was pretty rough towards the end. However, other areas like the apartments I felt were so much better than the original. And the scariest area in the original, and my personal favorite, the prison, has been amped up to 100 in the remake, and makes it a truly terrifying experience filled with dread. The navigation and map layouts in the remake are also much stronger than the original, making moving between areas much more intuitive. And of course, you have the incredible Silent Hill sound design on display here too. Playing with headphones is a must. Akira Yamaoka returns for the soundtrack here, with the original music being revised, as well as some additional songs as well. Fun isn't the way to describe my time with Silent Hill 2, but it was exactly what I wanted for the most part. The changes worked mostly in the game's favor, and I really loved what Bloober Team did. I think this game is going to get a lot more people into Silent Hill, and given how critically acclaimed and financially successful that Silent Hill 2 remake has been, I hope we get to see more Silent Hill remakes in the future. Silent Hill 2 Remake wins awards for Best Performance, Luke Roberts as James Sunderland, and Best Horror Game. Another horror game released during spooky season was Fear the Spotlight. I have been looking forward to Fear the Spotlight ever since Blumhouse Games showed off their lineup of upcoming games during SGF. Fear the Spotlight is a PS1-style horror game that follows two friends when they do a ritual at their school during the night and things go crazy. In case you haven't noticed, I adore retro PS1-style games, and so I had to jump on this game when it came out, and I was lucky enough to receive a code for it. Thank you, Blumhouse. Unlike survival horror games like Crow Country or even Silent Hill, Fear the Spotlight's gameplay doesn't include you getting a gun and shooting monsters. Instead, the gameplay revolves more around stealth and avoiding the spotlight. I thought this was unique, although as someone that can be impatient and doesn't enjoy stealth that much, I didn't always find it that enjoyable. What really kept me invested in Fear the Spotlight was the story that you piece together as you find different notes throughout the game. It doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game where you're piecing together how the monsters came to be, but rather like piecing together an interpersonal drama about what so-and-so did. I actually streamed this game, and I had so much fun piecing together what was going on with my chat and theorizing about different characters. I really enjoyed my time with Fear the Spotlight, and of course, I adored the aesthetic and even the voice acting in this game. And the final game I played that released in 2024 was Infinity Nikki. Infinity Nikki is a live service open world dress-up game that launched in early December on PS5, PC, and mobile. I've been playing on PS5, and holy moly, I love this game so much. I never got into Genshin Impact and wasn't even interested in playing other Hoyoverse games. I don't play live service multiplayer games like Fortnite or Helldivers. Infinity Nikki, though, is the perfect live service game for me that I can already tell I will be putting hundreds of hours and possibly dollars into. Although, as a disclaimer, I have only spent about $30 on Infinity Nikki so far, and none of that went towards the gacha. So, for starters, the open world in this game is so much fun to explore. There are different resources to collect, animals to groom, enemies to purify, bugs to catch, and fish to fish. You can then use the items gained from these activities to craft different clothes and accessories you can use to dress up. There is also a main story, side quests, and seasonal events that offer more rewards, lore, and more. There are so many different mechanics in Infinity Nikki that it would be hard to go over them all here, but trust me when I say that this game is a blast. The different fashion items are gorgeous, and I love playing dress up with all the different options that are available. It is so rare that game developers actively cater to women as their target demographic, and Infinity Nikki does exactly that. It feels so refreshing, and I adore this game so much. There are tons of different mini-games, you can ride a bike, you can challenge other stylists to styling challenges, there are platforming challenges, puzzles, and so much more. Difficulty never feels too hard, and as of now, I don't feel like you would need to spend money on the game to progress. You can have a wonderful experience as a free-to-play player, and with there being no cost of entry, I'd recommend anyone check this out. Infinity Nikki wins the award for Best Dress-Up Game. So that covers the new games that I played in 2024, but as I mentioned, I played a lot of games that released in previous years, so now I'm going to try to quickly wrap them up here. I finished Final Fantasy XVI, and I thought it was great. It definitely hits its peak early on, and there were some major drops in the pacing that really weakened the experience for me, unfortunately. The boss fights are stunning, and I had a good time, but I do feel like the first half of the game is a 10 out of 10, and the second half is more like a 7 out of 10. Before Rebirth came out, I played the remaster of Crisis Core Reunion. I played the original years ago, and I enjoyed playing through it again with a fresh coat of paint. It's a shorter experience, and I feel like that works really well for what it's doing. I also enjoyed the optional missions. I really love Crisis Core, and I always have. It was fun revisiting the edgy theater kids tormenting Zack. I also felt it necessary to play Dirge of Cerberus before Rebirth came out, and honestly, not as bad as people say. Gameplay was fun enough. I don't think I could explain the story to you if you asked me, and I didn't really enjoy that part of it, but playing the game was fine, and the aesthetic of it all was fun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it's not as bad as people say. I also played Style Savvy Trendsetters, the first Style Savvy on the 3DS, and it was good. It's probably my least favorite of the Style Savvy games, but even at that, it's still a really fun game with that same addicting gameplay loop. Next up, I played the Bowser's Fury portion of Super Mario 3D World. This was so much fun, and if I remember correctly, I think I actually 100%ed it. Super fun 3D platforming. I also finally finished the first game in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles duology. It's a great game that I don't have much to say about. I want to play the second one at some point. Kirby and the Forgotten Land was another game that I enjoyed, but definitely thought that I'd enjoy more. It was my first Kirby game, and it was fine and fun, but definitely not on the level as something like Mario, which I definitely didn't expect, but I did think I would enjoy it more. Similarly, I played Mario Wonder, which I also enjoyed, but didn't enjoy that much. 2D Mario has never been my thing. I'm much more of a 3D platformer girly, but Mario Wonder shaking up the formula a bit, I thought it might hit more with me. I can acknowledge it's a great game, but on a personal level, it's just not my thing. I do always enjoy being immersed in the Mario world, though, and getting to play as Toad. One heavy hitter that I poured hours into this year, though, was Hades. I've never played a roguelike before, so I figured the best place to start would be with the game that won many Game of the Year awards in 2020. I can now say that I'm a fan of the roguelike genre. I had a lot of fun with the core action gameplay and experimenting with different weapons and boons. I played enough to reach the epilogue, which may not have been my finest idea since it definitely burnt me out on the game, but I saw it through to the end. I fell in love with Megara, but I didn't find myself that invested in a lot of the characters or story. I was definitely there for the gameplay. Although I did love talking to everyone after a run and found myself at many times wanting more and feeling a bit annoyed with the slow pace of the game doing run after run after run, I had a good time. I put over 70 hours into it. Hades is a great game. Hades wins the award for Best Game that didn't release in 2024. Next up, I played the original Resident Evil. I played the director's cut that's available on PlayStation Plus Premium and has emulation save and rewind features, which was a godsend. I didn't have to worry about ink ribbon saves, and if I was in trouble, I could just rewind 30 seconds to before that enemy beat the shit out of me. Some people may view my way of playing Resident Evil as sacrilege to survival horror, but that's fine. I enjoyed playing it that way. I played both Jill and Chris's campaign, and I really loved exploring the Spencer Mansion. I also adored the campy live-action opening and voice acting throughout the game. This is actually the first Resident Evil game that I ever finished. It's a classic, and man, the music is perfect. Thank God the director's cut version on PlayStation Plus Premium keeps the original version's music. If you know, you know. Speaking of music, have you ever wanted to dance to Mario music? Well, I played Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. It's really easy, but it actually has a main campaign unlike other DDR games, and I thought it was really cute. I also played Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal, which was good. Going Commando is my favorite game in the series, and unfortunately, Up Your Arsenal doesn't live up to it in my opinion, being more frustrating and revolving a lot more around combat. It's good, but doesn't feel as revolutionary as the jump from the original Ratchet & Clank to Going Commando. I also played some Kairosoft games, including Dungeon Village, Shiny Ski Resort, and Mega Mall Story. Of these, Mega Mall Story was probably my favorite, although none quite hit the height of Hot Springs Resort Story that I played last year. And finally, we have A Castle Full of Cats, which is a simple hidden object game. It was a cute game to relax with for an evening. Whew, that was a lot of games. And after all is said and done, what was my favorite that I played this year? As you may have guessed, it comes down to 2 games. But at the end of the day, between Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot, my game of the year is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. As much as I love Astrobot, at my core, I'm a Final Fantasy VII shill. Thank you so much for watching. I hope 2025 treats you well and we get to play even more great games. Until next time.